January 15, 1919, Boston. A day that began as an ordinary day soon turned into one of the most bizarre tragedies in American history. Picture this, a winter day in the north end of Boston, a bustling neighborhood going about its usual business. Suddenly, the peace was shattered by a sound like a freight train. The culprit, a massive storage tank full of molasses. Incredibly, the tank burst and a wave of thick, sticky molasses came rushing through the streets at an astonishing speed. Buildings were swept off of their foundations, people and horses were trapped in the gooey tide, and a city stood in shock at the sheer scale of the disaster. Lives were lost, many were injured, and the entire area was left in a state of sticky and sweet-smelling devastation. In just a few moments, Boston was immersed in a sticky, deadly tide. But what led to this unusual disaster? The gigantic molasses storage tank was built to feed the industrial demand of the era. At the dawn of the 20th century, molasses was a key component of various industries. From its use in the production of rum and ethanol to its role as a sweetener in food, molasses was an industrial powerhouse. Yet the massive storage tank that held this thick and sticky substance had a dark secret. Its construction and maintenance were marred by flaws, its walls too thin and its rivets too few. Over time, these defects would prove catastrophic. The scale of the disaster that followed was simply unimaginable. Just imagine a 15-foot wave of molasses rushing through the streets at 35 miles per hour. This was no slow-motion catastrophe. It was a swift and deadly deluge, a sticky tsunami that caught the city completely off guard. A disaster of this magnitude was unforeseen, but the aftermath was even more daunting. And in the wake of the molasses flood, Boston faced a monumental task: the rescue of survivors, recovery of the lost, and the cleanup of the North End. With the city coated in a sticky, bittersweet mess, first responders fought against time and treacle to save lives. Firefighters, police officers, and everyday citizens became heroes in this syrupy saga, proving Boston's unity in the face of adversity. Cleanup was no small feat. It took over 80,000 man-hours, countless shovels, sand, water, and steam to wash away the molasses. The harbor was brown with molasses until summer, a constant reminder of the tragedy. The flood also sparked a lengthy legal battle. The company owning the tank was taken to court, with more than 100 lawsuits filed. This led to one of the first major class action lawsuits in Massachusetts, setting a precedent for corporate responsibility. The molasses flood left a scar on Boston, but it also triggered changes that would echo throughout the country. The Great Boston Molasses Flood, as tragic as it was, became a catalyst for change in industrial safety. It was a wake-up call for industries and regulators alike, shedding light on the dire need for improved safety standards. The aftermath of the flood saw a surge in stricter construction laws and closer inspections of industrial facilities, setting a precedent for the entire nation. The flood also led to one of the first class action lawsuits in Massachusetts, further highlighting the importance of accountability and responsibility in industrial operations. The legacy of the flood endures not just in the regulatory changes it inspired, but also in the collective memory of the city. It's a poignant reminder of the costs of negligence forever etched in Boston's urban history. A sticky tragedy that forever changed the face of Boston